welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk with Encore. Today, we're excited to be discussing the topic of putting therapeutic back into therapeutic exercise. Well, from the moment a therapist begins reading a patient's medical record to walking into that patient's room and beginning their evaluations, therapists are formulating a plan to help their patients go from a level of disability to a level of function where that patient's really going to then be able to get back to experiencing life at its fullest. But in order for patients to make those necessary improvements, they are relying heavily on their therapist to do a couple of things. So first, they need their therapist to do a thorough evaluation, followed by creating objective and measurable goals. But second, they need their therapist to focus their time spent in the therapy treatments on therapeutic approaches, and then creating treatments that are going to help them achieve those goals. Well, one of the CP codes that PTs and OTs might include in those treatment plans of care is 97110, and it's also known as therapeutic exercise. Well, there are a lot of benefits to utilizing therapeutic exercise, but when using billing code 97110, there are several things that both the evaluating therapist and the treating therapist should be mindful of.
So when we're looking at our patients, as therapists, we are all what I like to call a little bit of a health nut, right? We like to exercise and we think everyone else should exercise. And we look at the entire body and we think, man, I can make this patient stronger. But our health insurance doesn't necessarily want to pay for us to make the entire patient's body stronger. They're really only looking for us to treat the areas of illness and the areas that are impacting our patient's function. So we need to identify those areas, we need to isolate them, and then we need to find effective ways to treat. So the first step goes back to that root cause analysis. So talking to the patient about the functions that are affecting their day, what's working for them, what's not working for them, and identifying those movement patterns that we need to fix. We need to find those weak muscles that are really impacting their day, and then set up a strength training program that's going to help fix those muscle groups. Now, the other thing that seems strange, because we all have that perfect gym posture when we go to the gym and we think about really isolating muscles, but for our patients, if we can treat multiple muscle groups in the same movement and make it a functional movement, so they only have to do 2 or 3 exercises instead of doing 12, it's going to be a lot easier for them to be successful. So let's put it back into a functional activity if we can, or at least a functional movement pattern, and give them their strength training in a smaller group of exercises.
All really, really great points. And that kind of leads me into the topic of documentation requirements for therapeutic exercises. CMS and other insurance providers really tell us pretty distinctly that anytime our services are, repetitive and redundant, that those aren't skilled and it's not reimbursable. So we need to make sure that we are providing meaningful therapeutic exercises that are going to be, like Becky said, we're picking a specific muscle group, we're picking it for a specific reason, and then we're tying that into a function. So they also have to be progressive. Not all patients on our therapy caseloads should be getting the same set of exercises day in and day out. We need to make sure that we are progressing. And I use this example a lot when I'm doing trainings, but I worked with a PT really early on in my career when I was a manager, and she came into, she came into the therapy gym office kind of exasperated. And I was like, what's happening? And she expressed her concern that when she walked into the therapy room, that there was a lot of seated TheraX going on. So me being a speech therapist, she really educated me on when we are doing therapeutic exercises, we need to really think about what position our patients need to be using these muscle groups in. So progressing them from seated to standing therapeutic exercises, and then making sure that we're constantly progressing. So me being a speech therapist, I always kind of kick back that question to therapists that I'm talking about why are you doing seated? They're doing all of these gait activities and you have a lot of gait goals. So why are we not doing these exercises in a standing position? So additionally, we need to know when to stop therapeutic exercises. So when we are just, telling our patients, do 3 sets of 10 of this, and maybe you're typing, maybe you're talking to another person in the room, and you're not really having any involvement with that patient's completion of those exercises, again, that's not skilled, and that can definitely be passed on to, a home exercise program or even restorative nursing if you have that set up in your building. So I do want to kind of give a little bit of plug to speech therapists. So while we don't bill 97110, speech therapists still do exercises. So, and they are therapeutic. We just don't bill it under this code. So all of these, discussion points about therapeutic exercises still apply to speech therapists. So if we're doing oral pharyngeal exercises, for dysphagia management, we really need to make sure that they are progressive, that they're meaningful, that we're picking exercises that actually target the deficit and not giving our patients just the same blanket exercises if they have oral pharyngeal impairments.
Such good points. And as you can see, based off of what Becky said and what Ashley said, there's a place for 97110, but there's also a benefit of functional treatment. So when we choose to provide that function-based treatment, it puts our residents, as Becky was saying, in positions, in situations they're actually going to encounter once they're discharged from therapy. And they're learning to actually function through those tasks of everyday life that they are going to encounter. So we've all heard that phrase, practice makes perfect, right? We've been hearing it since we were little. We need to actually give our patients the opportunity to practice these tasks that they're going to be able, or that they need to be able to do in order to return home. Now, performing these more function-based activities can also go hand in hand with providing treatment that's more patient-centered and meaningful. So if we have a patient and their main goal is to be able to, for example, transfer to the toilet independently, what better way to help them achieve that goal than to actually practice transferring to the toilet? So it gives our patients more of a sense of accomplishment, and it's more meaningful. We tend to see better outcomes when we're focused more on function and less on these kind of everyday exercises.
Isn't that the case? So kind of, taking everything that we've been talking about here today, there are so many benefits that we can find from using therapeutic exercise, but it has to be done correctly. We really need to make sure that we're including those specific muscle groups, we're breaking down tasks, and we're including all of that, not in our treatment approaches, but also in that therapy documentation. It's essential that we're, describing the skilled need for using 97110 or any kind of therapeutic exercise, and having that included in both our plan of care and our treatment approaches. So it's really important that we are also, in addition to all of that, like Kelly said, utilizing these functional based approaches to treatment. It's certainly going to make that powerful impact on our patients, their engagement, how excited they are or not to participate in our therapy interventions. And it's really then going to positively impact outcomes. I'd like to thank everyone today for listening in to our discussion on the topic of putting therapeutic back into therapeutic exercise. And we're hoping that everyone's then going to be able to incorporate some of these ideas into your very next treatment session. Well, thanks again for everyone for listening in, and we hope that you all would tune in again for our next episode of Coffee Talk with Encore.